Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football waiver wire show. It has been every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, but we're switching to 8:45 p.m. Eastern, 5:45 Pacific, and you know why? To give you 15 extra minutes to get ready. We never want to screw it up for you guys. Today is waiver wire week 5, NFL week 6. We don't get those confused. I'm here with Casey Vlad to the Bone Scheinvold and Ross the Boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss. And I want to talk fantasy football waiver wire with you, Cowboy. Now, don't think Brad Williams might be here later. Don't confuse me with Brad Williams, guys. I know we look a lot alike, a lot of similarities. We're both really funny, really good looking, but don't confuse us because I'm Ross the Boss. What do you guys think about the football season yesterday? What was your favorite game, guys? Go.
Well, listen, I think
what's your favorite
people,
game? Cleveland Chargers. Go.
Listen, that probably was the game of the week, don't you think? But as a Browns fan, it was pretty hard to say.
I don't know who had a worse loss. Me as a Bengal fan with the field goals missing, McPherson should be embarrassed by himself.
That was
I could have kicked a 48-yard field goal. Or the Browns just not playing defense and just letting people score at will. Like, come on in, score. I mean, there was a lot of exciting games yesterday. Hey. Casey, let's talk about your Giants.
As somebody who owns both Devontae Adams and Austin Eckler, I was happy with both of those games. Very happy with both.
This is what fantasy sports does to you.
And who owns Justin Herbert on our team? And who picked up Tony from the Giants last second before the game started? Tell the fans who did that.
Is that you, Ross the Boss? I don't pay that much.
That's Casey Scheinfold. I'm sure he's looking for, what happened to Tony? He's on Ross's boss this Steve. That's what happened to him. Casey
I'll give you credit if you pronounce his first name.
Avarius? No, hold on. Hold on.
This is an amazing quiz. All right, listen, why don't you think that over,
Kadrina?
Kadarius.
Nicely
Kadarius.
done.
Okay, came close.
All right, listen, let's dive into quarterbacks here. We've wasted
We'll
enough
dive into
people's time.
And if you don't have a quarterback that you're starting right now and you need our help, you're probably losing your league. So just listen to us very carefully what we say and do.
All right, but listen, I started Sam Darnold last week, and he completely blew up. I started him this week, and I lost. So that's what happens when you start a guy like Sam Darnold. Remember, though, we're talking 60% and under rostership in Yahoo. So let's get right to quarterbacks. My top guy, I bet you, is not your top guy. I'm not even going to bring him up yet because I want to test this theory. Casey, let's start with you.
I don't know if I have a top guy per se. I don't think the waiver wire is that strong for fantasy quarterbacks right now. So, I mean, I still think Sam Darnold is up there because just one bad game does not change what he's done the other 4 weeks of the season, rushing and passing it into the end zone. I think Trevor Lawrence is slowly starting to arrive, so that should be somebody you might be able to target too. And then the other guy, look, Jameis Winston can lay an egg 1 week, but he can have 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think he's had 2 games now of at least 4 throwing touchdowns. And so he's somebody you can target too. And in a couple weeks, he's going to get Michael Thomas back, which is only going to increase the opportunities for him to throw touchdowns because obviously we know Michael Thomas is one of the best receivers in football.
All right, these are good names to have. I agree with you. There's no clear top guy, but listen, I take the job seriously. I try to rank it as high as I can. So Ross, who do you have before I get to my number one?
Just if you need to get a quarterback, I'm thinking you want somebody who has a high ceiling, correct? I mean, you don't want somebody that already peaked, like the guy at the Raiders, like Carr. I think he peaked. I think he's on his way down. I like Trey Lance. I talked about it last week. He had his first game. He started on Sunday. I know he didn't look that great. He played Arizona, who's a really good defense. Casey Scheinfold, really good defense. And you know what? I think the ceiling on that kid is way up here, taller than Brad Williams. So I believe that this Trey Lance, if you can get him now, I think it's an unbelievable gamble and you'll win at the end. I'm Ross the Boss.
I really like Trey Lance, and I agree that his ceiling is super high. But with Brandon Ayuk being terrible and Kittle going to the IR and being out for a number of weeks, I'm just worried about where he's going to get his passing stats from. But he can run the ball. So you're right. The ceiling is super high. I worry about his fantasy viability for this year.
All right. Well, I agree with you both. I think Trey Lance's ceiling is clearly the highest of the guys who are out there. And also I'm agreeing with you, Casey, that you got to remember it's slim pickings. So getting Trey Lance is a good thing.
So what's bigger, Brad Williams' height or Trey Lance's ceiling?
Listen, I'm a therapist. You're making me very uncomfortable here, Ross.
I'm a therapist.
All right,
I'm going to play that card. As soon as I put you in a bad
really
position,
fast.
you say you're a therapist. That's your trick. I know the tricks over here. Unbelievable.
That's right. Now pay me. Oh, I'll tell you my fee later. Okay. The top guy that I have, though, I just think he's a very underrated quarterback. Matt Ryan, every year, he performs really well. I know the Falcons are terrible, but that means a lot of garbage time points. He's starting to come on. He's had a history of some very big performances. I'm not saying I'm happy if I have to start Matt Ryan. I'm not. But if, let's say, your quarterback gets injured, or let's say you just didn't draft well, you're going to have to try to get by on guys like Matt Ryan or plugging.
Well, the thing is this, guys, we need to discuss this. The bye weeks start this week. So you might be right. If I'm desperate and Casey Scheinfeld knows when I'm desperate, that's when I call Matt Ryan, because the week coming up, we have bye weeks coming up, guys. We need to fill in some players. And Matt Ryan, you're right. It's not it matters who they play, first of all. But they played the Jets on early morning yesterday, and that was a good start. He had a good game, but doesn't matter. I'm saying this, you gotta pay attention who's playing who, but the bye week's coming up and you may have to pick up a quarterback. You're 100% right.
Thank you, sir. Now, do I have this right that there's another game in London this week? Is that correct?
Yes. Miami is playing. Casey Scheinfeld, help me with your genius.
Jacksonville.
Remember, Jacksonville. No, it's so funny. They really love to give they really don't really send our A team to London.
They gave them the worst game.
I mean, Miami, who's probably one of the worst teams out there. I'm sorry if you're a Dolphin fan. And then, I mean, Jacksonville, I love Trevor Lawrence. I saw him play live recently. I mean, it's fun to watch them, but again, Jacksonville hasn't won a game since Casey took a shower.
Yeah, but it'll be really fun to see what Urban Meyer is willing to do in London.
Well, listen, people in London, are they're used to watching relegated teams. I think they'll be okay. True. But these teams are like relegated teams right now. All right, guys, I'm just going to say I also agree. Trevor Lawrence is a guy to
I love that kid. You don't have to sell me on him. He's
just got a lot of upside.
He's the future, and he is the best tear in football.
And I think he's going to start to figure it out. Okay, guys, we are sponsored by Killcliff, and I'm going to read an ad for Killcliff because they want me to do that. So here we go. Killcliff CBD, the best tasting CBD drink in the world. Orange Kush, Mango Tango, Strawberry Days, the grapest of all time, and Joe Rogan's spicy pineapple called the Flaming Joe. Founded by a Navy SEAL for those who aren't Navy SEALs, but I bet you he'd give it to Navy SEALs too. It's the biggest no-brainer in the history of drinks. Go to killcliff.com. All right, guys, we're on to running backs. Now, this is going to be fun, Ross, because my number one running back, I'm going to start off.
You start.
You're always talking about how you don't own the Jets, and I basically agree with you. But the one guy that I think you could own on the Jets is Michael Carter, because a starting running back, especially with bye weeks coming up, you made that point, you're going to have to plug in somebody. This guy has decent upside. He can score a touchdown. Now, the Jets, they as a team could score one touchdown, possibly. But if they're going to, I'm going to bet on Michael Carter. I think he's going to be good the rest of the season. He's only 54% on this. Probably the last time you'll hear about him on the show. He's going to go over 60%, and that'll be it. Guys, who else do you have? I'd
rather start Jimmy Carter, the ex-president, than Michael Carter. I mean, the Jets are just horrible. I don't know if any of you watched the game when they played Atlanta in London, but I mean, the Jets don't look like a good ball club. They're bad offensively, not good defensively. I'm not a big fan, but there were a couple injuries that happened over the weekend. And
there were. Go ahead, Ross.
Casey, why don't you go first, and I'll take the one you don't say.
Okay, so you want me to pick one? I will pick Devontae Booker of the New York Giants because I'm a Giants fan. So I'll name the Giants.
That's why I gave it to you.
That's why I didn't take the.
I'm getting better with politeness.
Yep,
and I figured you set me up, so I didn't take the one I would rather have of the two replacement running backs this week. So I'll give you that one. I'll take Devontae Booker of the Giants. Saquon Barkley, if anybody watched it, talk about, man, being unlucky in injuries. He just happened to be running along. It wasn't a contact injury. Again, he just stepped on a Dallas defender's foot, and you saw his ankle just roll all the way to the ground. It was pretty ugly. They say he's going to probably miss a few weeks. At least it's a low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain, according to what I've read, which is the less severe, allegedly, of the two sprains. So hopefully it's not a 6 to 8 weeker, but maybe a 2 to 3 weeker. But in the meantime, Daniel Jones also got hurt. So you got Mike Glennon as your quarterback, this 6'6" statue of a man who couldn't start anywhere before. So they also are missing their 3 top wide receivers. So there's not a lot of positives in New York in general for football, or the Meadowlands, because they're actually New Jersey. And so, but Devontae Booker is going to get a lot of carries because there's nobody else really to take carries from him. So he's a volume guy. If he can get 15 to 20 touches a game, maybe he breaks 1 or 2 here and there and can get you some viable fantasy points. And if you're a Saquon Barkley owner, you might be a little desperate. And so and hopefully that's the value of a handcuff. So I'll say Devontae Booker for you, Ross, which leaves you to say who?
So Tiki Barber's not walking through the locker room next week, Casey Scheinfeld, correct?
Well, he might be.
There's no Mark Bavaro. There's no Tiki Barber. There's no Phil Simms. The Giants are in deep trouble, I would say.
Well, if you're going that far back, you got to mention Joe Morris. He was the running back in those
What about Y.A. Tittle? I mean, if we're going to go all the way back, let's go all the way back.
He's unbelievable. Joe Pisarcik, unbelievable. So let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you guys watched the Chiefs, but they're in last place, 2-3. Ross the Boss said they're not making the playoffs this year. I'm still standing by that. I think everybody wants to beat the Chiefs, and they're figuring a way to do it. And the Bills just didn't beat them last night in Kansas City. They slaughtered them. It was an embarrassment. It was embarrassment. It shows you there's a changing of the guard in the AFC, and it's called the Buffalo Bills. Allen is
my
unbelievable.
Super Bowl winning pick, by the way.
And Ross the Boss bet them in Vegas to win the Super Bowl. Got 20-1 odds. Not too bad, Ross the Boss. So Darrell Williams is taking Eclair Edwards, blah, 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 whatever
Claude
his name is.
Edwards Elaire.
Okay, close enough. Often
confused with an Eclair.
He just heard Eclair, and he was like, I don't
Darrell
like
Williams
I'm hungry.
would be the starting running back. He looked pretty good last night when he took his place. He'll be the starting running back for the next 6 weeks. I mean, this guy's not coming back for a long time. So if you want to start running back on a mediocre team, Darrell Williams is your guy. And I'm Ross the Boss. Dan?
Okay, well, I agree with your guys' analysis. Of the two, I'd rather have Darrell Williams, but I have to say it's pretty close. And the reason it's pretty close is that Kansas City doesn't run the ball when they have a high draft pick in there. I could see them just going away and doing a bunch of shovel passes to Kelsey for their running game. I mean, they just don't run the ball that much. So I'm not crazy about either one. I'll also just mention in very deep leagues, if you're desperate for running backs, you might pick up somebody else in that backfield just to see, because you don't know what's going to happen. But I do think that Darrell Williams is the I would say he's the number 2 pickup for me behind Michael Carter, who I know you hate from the Jets perspective. I don't like the Jets perspective either, but he is a starting running back. Devontae Booker looks pretty good, actually, when he runs. I just don't know what to expect from the Giants at this point. Another guy that I have on my list is Alex Collins. Now, we don't know what Alex Collins' involvement is going to be like. We don't know what Chris Carson's status is exactly, but he started the other night for Chris Carson out on the Thursday game. He looked pretty good, and you could do a lot worse than him. Carson gets dinged up a lot. He's just a good player to own. I'm not saying he's going to make or break your season in all likelihood, but listen, if he helps you get a win in a bye week, that could make or break your season. That's the thing about fantasy football. So I say pick up Alex Collins while you have the chance. I think he's a good pickup. Here's another guy, though, that's the kind of pickup that I like to do.
Let's hear it. I can't wait.
Okay, these backup guys like Madison. Madison on the Vikings,
Minnesota.
Tony Pollard. They're both now owned over 75%.
So are we talking about him? I can't pick him up. You just rubbing my face that you picked them up yet last week, so I can't grab him. Is that the whole idea?
No, keep your ears open, because the next guy up is Jeremy Mcnichols.
Oh, Mcnichols.
This guy, if Derrick Henry were to go down, Jeremy Mcnichols could make a huge difference on your team. Yep. I like to have a guy like that in my lineup. Casey, what about you? Who else would you pick up?
Everybody was last week. I remember we were talking about it when, David Montgomery went down. Everybody was like, Damian Williams, you got to pick him up. He was probably the top pickup in fantasy football last week, if I went through all the numbers. And then what happens this week? Khalil Herbert gets 18 touches for 75 yards. Somebody who, if you had asked me 2 weeks ago who Khalil Herbert played for, I would have just kind of done this.
You would have said, if I said it, you would have said, Ross, you mean Justin Herbert, don't you? And I would have said, no, Khalil Herbert. And he did lead the Bears in handoffs last week on Sunday. And you're 100% right. That's a good pickup. The Bears have no idea what they're doing right now.
And he averaged over 4 yards a carry. So again, if you're desperate for running back help, maybe you had Montgomery and you picked up Williams, and all of a sudden you got slammed there. You got to pick up Herbert too, I think. And
well, also
it's a crapshoot who's going to get the most touches, because Matt Nagy has proven to be a pretty unpredictable and unreliable coach.
Also, in fantasy football, you got to look out for things like that. Maybe another guy scooped you on Williams, but you pick up Herbert. That's why I'm saying with the Chiefs and the Giants backfields, maybe you pick up Gary Brightwell. I don't know. And in New York, he might actually get a lot of carries. I don't think so, based on what Devontae
if you
Booker
pick up Gary
like.
Brightwell, you're not going to win your league. So I suggest you pick up Gary Brightwell.
Unless you're in like a 16-team league.
You're in a 20-game league, and it's you start 6 running backs.
Okay, we'll see. Listen, I'm not saying that is going to happen, but things like that are going to happen, and you're going to end up eating your words Hunter Dozier style. That's a baseball reference.
That's my boy. That's Hunter Dozier. That's my boy.
All right, so anybody else we need to mention?
I mean, I don't know if he's under. I didn't look, but another guy that had a great game. He had like 49 yards receiving, and he scored a touchdown. Is A.J. Dillon for Green Bay?
I believe he's over 60%.
Is he over now? Last week he wasn't. I picked him up in a couple leagues last week, actually. But guys like that, we're talking about getting handcuffs. You get A.J. Dillon that way. If Aaron Jones goes down, you have a great running back. You have running back 1 starting the following week.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, guys like that
Stan's talking about right now with all the bye weeks and all the other crazy stuff that's going on, you got to protect yourself and pick up some of these second string running backs right now, because you're not going to get them next week.
Now, one other guy that I keep mentioning, and I'm going to keep mentioning him until he picked up enough, is Kenneth Gainwell. He didn't have a good week last week. I know that.
Yeah, the Eagles' running game is awful. I wish I had some better news for you, but Sanders is a joke.
Okay, but listen, fantasy football is a week-to-week thing. Do you remember how much panic there was over James Robinson? Everyone was like, oh my God, he's
Unless Stu Staley's walking in the locker room next week, I'm not taking any Eagles running back. I love Jalen Hurts, though.
Yep. Well, listen, I'm not taking Deuce Staley either. All right. We're going to go to wide receivers, but first I want to check in with the audience. Guys, we want to hear your comments. We love to debate these things with you. We have some fun debates with fans. Come put your comments below. We'll answer you directly. And in the meantime, our rankings each week are available every Wednesday on www.mfsn.tv. You'll hear from me, Casey, and Ross. You'll see what we disagree on. You can take us to task for whatever we blow or whatever we get right. If you want to give us praise, we have fragile egos sometimes, and that would help.
That's right. It always feels good to receive
love.
It
really does. So please be kind. Or don't. Whatever you want. Okay, guys, let's move on to wide receivers. Ross, I'm going to let you start. Who is your top wide receiver this week?
Okay, I'm not going to say the obvious just because I want Casey to do it. That's how nice I am to see. I'm turning a leaf.
You can't pronounce his name. Don't pretend you're nice.
Turning a new leaf. Marquez Callaway. Heidi, 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 ho, hody, hody.
Oh, that's
Marquez
Callaway.
2 touchdowns, 85 yards. He's the favorite receiver. They're in New Orleans. I mean, he is playing great. The New Orleans offense is starting to shine. I know he had a couple he laid a couple eggs a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks in a row, but I think he's back. Marquez Callaway, I feel if I could get him in my league, I'll probably start him next week. He's a great pickup right now, and go pick him up now.
And you've been high on him all year.
Yeah, but then he laid those 2 eggs in a row, and I was just like, oh, what am I doing? Am I drunk? What's wrong with me?
I'm still not super high on him. I understand he had 85 yards and 2 touchdowns last week, yesterday. But one of those was a 53-yard Hail Mary at the end of the half.
Unbelievable. So they practice that, Casey Scheinfeld, every week.
I know they do, Ross. I know, but they don't usually catch him like you do. But anyway, I do agree that he's a favorite of Jameis Winston right now of the wide receivers. I'm just not sold on the long-term value because this was really his first.
Okay, who's your pick then, Casey Scheinfeld? If you're so negative against my pick, who's your guy?
I will tell you. Well, obviously, Kadarius Toney had a huge game yesterday for the Giants. He was targeted 13 times, had 10 catches for 189 yards. He didn't get into the end zone, but honestly, I'm not.
He was disqualified during the game. They kicked him out.
Yeah, he got into a fight. That's true. Well,
he didn't even finish the game, and he still had 189
imagine
yards.
How many catches he would have had without that. But
and I can't
my
remember
problem is not
who picked him up
his
yesterday
talent.
and
Will you
started
just
him in
shut
early. Just
up?
tell everybody.
For God's sake, is not his talent. He's clearly talented. If you watched him play, he just has that quick twitch, that explosiveness that was fun to watch. But I just don't trust the Giants offense to get anything going, and with Daniel Jones out and everybody else out. So I don't like him that much. I'm still high on Tim Patrick in Denver. The guy consistently is getting between 8 and 10 targets. His catch rate is great. He didn't find the end zone this week, but again, he had 7 receptions for 89 yards. He's just really solid and steady. Teddy Bridgewater, who is an underrated quarterback, kind of in that Matt Ryan sort of mold, is using both of his receivers very well, and they seem to be working well together. He is still my favorite in a PPR league as somebody to add, more than Kadarius Toney or Marquez Callaway. I love Marquez Callaway. His preseason was awesome. The hype was good. I think he's a crazy athlete, but he's too kind of inconsistent for me. I'd rather have somebody who gets a lot of targets every week and tends to produce that Hunter Renfrow, Tim Patrick type of wide receiver.
All right, well, listen, Casey, for me, nailed that. Tim Patrick, to me, at this wide receiver list, it's Tim Patrick and everyone else. And it's not because Tim Patrick is so great, but here's why. Tim Patrick is the one guy on this list that I can pretty much guarantee you is going to give you pretty good value. And we're now coming up on the bye weeks. You have got to get good value. I like Marquez Callaway. I like Kadarius Toney. They could put big numbers, but they also could lay an egg. I would feel more comfortable plugging in Tim Patrick. Now, could I be wrong about that? Absolutely. I've been wrong about lots of fantasy football things before, but I do think the advantage of Tim Patrick is you know what his role is. He's very consistent. He's getting a good amount of targets. I think he's going to do well. Now, after that, the reason I say it's him and everybody else is just that there's lots of interesting guys who can easily outperform him, but they're all variable. I'll give you a couple. I'm just going to run through a list.
The rest. First of all, I'd rather start Dan Patrick than Tim Patrick, but keep going.
Yes, but you wanted to start Jimmy Carter, which is guaranteed 0.
I'd rather start Jimmy Carter.
No offense, Jimmy Carter,
yes,
but there's not a chance to pick me.
all these guys are not going to win you any leagues, but keep going.
You don't know that. You can win a league.
Okay, well, I'll pay attention to Tim Patrick and see how he does next week.
You do that. Now, it's better than my chorus teacher, Miss Kilpatrick. You don't want to start her.
I like her.
There are 2 Arizona Cardinals who are very interesting. Rondale Moore, rookie, he's up and coming. Yep. 40% owned.
I saw a great catch he made, unbelievable catch he made on Sunday. I don't know how he did it, but keep going.
So here's a question I have. Marquez Callaway. I would rather own Christian Kirk than Marquez Callaway, and here's why. To me, they're very similar players, except Christian Kirk has already done it more, and his explosive games have happened more often, and we've only seen it really once from Callaway, even though you say that he related to Cab Callaway of Minnie the Moocher. I had to note that. That was very well done.
Thank you. I
think Christian Kirk, though, yes, he could lay an egg.
Christian Kirk, Texas A&M, win you a week. Team that beat Alabama on Saturday, graduate. I just feel Arizona spreads that ball around, and Hopkins is obviously the number 1. Green and Kirk are the number 2. Max Williams is hurt. I don't know when he's coming back, but they carried him off on Sunday. And then you got a few other guys like Moore for Arizona. So he does spread the ball around, but I'm not a huge fan of Kirk Moore.
I just think it's a dice roll. The same thing is true of the Las Vegas Raiders receivers. Hunter Renfrow is getting a lot of targets. He's only 45% owned. Henry Ruggs is 58% owned. He's probably getting less targets. I would probably go for Hunter Renfrow of the 2, but you could do worse than either one of them. And Van Jefferson, very interesting as well. Go ahead,
Van Jefferson.
And if you want an Egyptian god on your team, there's one available. Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions has become kind of Jared Goff's go-to wide receiver, which was what was kind of predicted before the start of the season. There was
Quintez Cephas.
Yeah.
Cephas.
Well, he also got
there,
injured.
But he didn't get as many targets, I don't think, the last couple of weeks. And, St. Brown is a more well-known commodity coming out of college. He's considered kind of a freakish athlete. He got a bunch of targets last week, converted them all. He hasn't found the end zone yet. But again, we're not talking about this is a guy on a waiver wire who's going to change the direction of your franchise for the rest of the season. We're looking at guys who can be viable bye-week fill-ins or replace your injured starters. And if Amon-Ra St. Brown continues, remember, one of Dan's big things during all the preseason talk and the earlier stages is rookie wide receivers take 5 or 6 or 7 weeks to get up to speed of the NFL game, to really get to the point where you can trust them. And that's
so you're talking about the Cincinnati Bengal wide receiver Chase will take 5 or 6 games to make it Casey Sheinfeld. I don't think so.
There are guys
he's
who
an
are
all-pro receiver right now. He's a touchdown every week. So what are you talking about?
Nobody doubts that he's a stud. We're saying on average. Yeah,
he's never
talking bad about my Bengals.
Most people say a quarterback can't throw 5 touchdowns and 400 yards at 44 years of age.
Crazy. Yeah.
So there are exceptions to every rule. I'm saying maybe St. Brown is turning that page and beginning to acclimate better to the league where he can be a more consistent contributor.
I'd rather have St. Nick than St. Brown on my team, just so you know. St. Brown. I want to take a Lion on my team if you paid me.
Would you take a Lion over a Jet?
Yeah. No.
Oh, my God.
You wouldn't want DeAndre Swift.
I would just quit fantasy football.
Okay, at this point, you're losing a lot of credibility with the viewers, Ross. Come on. All right, listen. Speaking of this, though, we're going to go to Ross's Never Again list. Ross made a list that earlier.
I compiled today that I said these players I would never, ever take again on my team. And in the past, Steven Jackson from the Rams I had on that list. I mean, I had a lot of big players on the list because in many years, they've screwed me in many ways.
Now, wait, hold on, Ross.
This is the most recent.
I have to clarify this because I don't want you confusing people. This is not a list of players who have retired, and Ross is saying he'll never pick up again.
These are current guys that I will never draft
again.
This
was like when Steven Jackson was playing. Yes, yeah, exactly. And I agree. I have players like that. I'm just like, nope, not doing it. So I'm going to read some names that you gave me. And you know what, Ross? I'm going to have you guess where you put them on your own list. Let's see if you can do this. All right. Miles Sanders. You're not going to draft him ever again. Where is he on your list? 1 through 10.
Probably 7, 8. Where did I put him?
Yeah, it was close. 5. Okay, 5. How about Saquon Barkley?
Saquon Barkley, probably 3 or 4.
Nope, 7.
Ooh, 7.
I'm just going
to 7. So Saquon, let me just talk about. So Saquon Barkley went down again. First round draft pick. I didn't take him, but I took him last year and destroyed me last year. I would never ever, or during our pre-draft show, I'm going to take him in the 5th round. So just be aware. If you want Barkley, go ahead and grab him. I'm never taking that guy again.
Well, you remember I had a chance to take him, and I didn't even think about it.
And Miles Sanders,
nope. Jonathan Taylor.
The Eagles running game is horrible. Keep going.
Why are you picking on Penn State running backs? I just gotta throw that out.
I apologize.
The first 2 players you pick are both Penn State running backs.
I apologize. I know you live in Pennsylvania.
I picked them at random. Isn't that weird? How about Joe Mixon? You have Joe Mixon on your list.
Joe Mixon, he's a Bengal. I think he's number 2 or 3. I have him on the list.
3.
Every year he goes down. Every year it's a high ankle sprain or it's an ankle or it's something. And it's just not worth it. So much hype. 2nd round pick for a lot of people.
Has he ever really delivered, Ross? You're a Bengals fan. Was there ever a
year had like a 4-game stretch a couple years ago, that he played really well. Got a lot of points, fantasy stud. But every year it's just very disappointing. And you get so much hype during the preseason. Don't fall into it next year, Casey Sheinfeld. Just be cool about it.
I do think Mixon had at least one good year that in fantasy that has propped him up, but I hear you. I agree.
Oklahoma grad. Yeah. I mean, it's just, he fails every year. Just don't, he's off my list.
How about this one? This affects both me and Casey. It's a Cleveland Brown and they're on Casey's dynasty team. Odell Beckham Jr.
He's number 1. He's number 1. He's number 1. He's number 1. Every year is like, he's coming back. This is his comeback year. This year he'll be great. He's healthy. The Browns have a new, play action offense that he's going to shine with. And you know what? He's nowhere to be found again.
He's kind of like the not drug-addled version of Josh Gordon.
He's kind of like the sane Terrell Owens. I mean, it's the same mold.
No, Terrell Owens, he was nuts, but that dude delivered for 5 or 6 straight years.
But you know
he's
what?
Like sane, not nearly as good Terrell.
Right, but
he's more like Chad Ochocinco, who was good for a couple of years and then just rode that forever.
With him, with Beckham, just take him off here. Just erase him. Never draft him again.
All right. Here's some other interesting ones. Allen Robinson.
Also
I
Penn
get
State.
you.
Oh my God. This probably the biggest flop in fantasy football.
Huge bust this year.
But I'm going to defend Allen Robinson. I'm going to defend Allen Robinson because he's had Matt Nagy running the quarterbacks. He's been one of the top receivers for 4 years running. And then they bring in Andy Dalton to try to get him the ball. And then they give it to Josh Fields, who can't throw for more than 75 yards in a game.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but
it's not Allen Robinson's fault.
So it's not like these other guys I look at and I say, it's them I don't want.
Allen Robinson, never draft again.
Keep going. Put him in almost anybody else's offense, and he's back to being Keenan Allen.
He has to ask for a trade.
Here's a guy that I never wanted to draft. I don't really know why so many people is Kenny Galladay. I'm never that high on him.
If you look at his stats, they're always 1,000 yards season.
It's what he did with Matt Stafford last year.
There you go.
No, I understand if he's connected to Matt Stafford, but when he went to the Giants, I was like, well,
he was projected. He was projected in the 7th, 8th round this season. People were taking him, and I was totally against it. And I don't know what this year he's invisible again. So
okay, I'm going to mention a couple others, but then we got to get on to tight ends.
That's good.
So we've got George Kittle, Julio Jones.
Oh, let's go back to George Kittle.
Oh, right. Never mind, Dan. You can't just list them.
But this will be our tight end segment.
George Kittle. I don't know who's worse this year. Kittle.
He's as good as any
Robinson,
other waiver wire pickups.
Mixon. You know, I mean, Kittle's probably. I give Kittle the worst fantasy football player of the year. That's my vote.
It's definitely possible, but remember, he is a tight end, so you weren't expecting that much. I guess from Kittle you were. But listen, let's use that as a segue. We'll do more never again lists. Casey and I will come up with them too. I want to use this as a segue because I was going to mention Kittle in my top tight end, and I'll just say it. I have not been a fan of Hunter Henry because there's 2 tight ends in New England, but they're both actually producing pretty well, especially Hunter Henry.
He's a great game. Tell us about his game he had yesterday, Dan.
I don't even remember all the stats. I looked at his overall stats, though, and he is putting up numbers. He's outdoing Tyler Higbee. He's Noah Fant, Mark Andrews.
6 receptions for 75 yards and a score.
Yeah, I mean, that's very good from your tight end. He's only 4 points behind T.J. Hawkinson. I mean,
no, I liked Hunter Henry when he played for the Chargers. I liked him this year with the Patriots. He started off very slow.
Well, I loved him with the Chargers, but
he is, Mac Jones is getting him the ball, and if you have a chance to pick him up, and if you have one of these mediocre tight ends, there's only like 3 or 4 tight ends that are staying on people's teams. The rest are all being floated around. Right. And if you can get Hunter Henry, I think he's on the upswing. Get him.
But Dawson Knox has graduated, by the way. He is 78% owned.
78%. Yeah.
You all got the memo on him.
Yeah, we said his name for like 3 weeks in a row, too, and now I can't even say it because he's
David Njoku is only 3% owned.
That's true. However, I do not trust the game. I mean, first of all, there was that one long pass. He looked good, but the Browns have 3 tight ends.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're desperate for a tight end coming into a bye week,
you could do worse.
I have a couple more that I think are better than the guy from Cleveland.
I have a couple above him too.
Go ahead,
Ross, why don't you? No. You give one, and then I'll give one.
Okay, I love this kid. He was traded mid-season to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's Dan Arnold. Hey Arnold, we call him Hey Arnold from the TV show. Mm-hmm. He had 64 yards on Sunday. Trevor Lawrence is starting to like this guy. He gets a lot of targets. Big target, big guy. I feel that his stats will get bigger and bigger every game. I think it's a good pickup right now for Dan Arnold.
He was one of my top pickups too. Casey, you haven't gotten to mention anybody. Go ahead.
No, I said David Njoku. I
thought that was a joke.
No, I like
that was
Njoku.
I thought that was like, okay.
Not a joke, Njoku.
Dan, tell us your tight end. I want to hear your.
I also have Hunter Henry and Arnold on my list.
So the other guy that I have is Tyler Conklin. I just, I like the piece of the Vikings.
That's my next one.
But I would add Kirk Cousins to the do not draft list. The guy has how many weapons around him? Like, even when Cook goes down, Madison has proven to be one of the best backups maybe in the league. He's got Jefferson, he's got Thielen, he's got Conklin, and he's throwing for like 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's just
here's my take on Cousins. I think he'll give you 9 to 10 really great games, and then he's going to give you some really bad ones. And I think if you're getting a cheap quarterback, you could do worse with that. I mean,
he's a great bye week fill-in at quarterback.
He's a great fill-in guy.
As somebody who's starting him week in and week out because he forgot to draft a quarterback, I can tell you he's very frustrating to me.
Yeah, you're not going to win your league starting Mr. Cousins. They're not going to come close. But hopefully, as a backup,
I'm in second place.
Well, I don't tell you, but
doing pretty well.
We'll
talk about some bragging rights. Yep. As we go forward. I just want to say again, I want to check in with everybody, the fans. We want your comments. Please put them below. We will answer you directly. And our rankings are available each Wednesday at www.mfsn.tv. We'll be working on them tomorrow. Get them out to you on Wednesday. Guys, let's shift gears to defenses. Streaming defenses, very popular, of course, because you don't want to overinvest in a defense. No. Who are your top defenses that are under 60% owned? Casey, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm looking, when it comes to defenses, I play it a lot like kickers, so I'm looking at who they're playing.
Exactly.
And so the ones I got going right now are Cincinnati, because who do they play next week, Ross?
Detroit.
You know, you can't really go wrong there.
That was one of mine. Keep going.
I got Indianapolis.
That was my second one.
That's my top one.
And then I have Miami going.
So you're naming three. So you're leaving Dan and I with nothing.
I know.
That's all right. I have no
kickers.
Go ahead, Ross.
The last one is Carolina. They're playing Miami. There you go.
Jacksonville's playing Miami.
Nobody's mentioning Green Bay at Chicago. I don't think that's.
I have that one on there, but I didn't want to say it because Ross is getting sensitive.
All right,
I really think the top one is in taking Indianapolis defense is number 8 rated. They're under 60%. If you can get Indy's defense this week, it's a great pickup. In all seriousness, Houston is not a good team. I know they almost beat the Pats, but again, the Pats aren't that good either. So that all being said, Indy's my top pick. It is a pickup for defense this week.
I totally agree with that. In fact, I picked up Indianapolis a week early for this game.
Smart. See how smart he is? This guy is just ahead of the curve. He's unbelievable.
It's amazing how much I work to finish in 10th. I can't believe it. But listen, I noticed this is an interesting thing. There are very few teams that are under 60% rostered that are playing at home. And generally, you do want to have a team playing at home. They just do better there.
Unless they're playing the Jets.
Unless they're playing the Jets. But, you know, the Jets, I don't remember who they're playing this week.
I don't know.
Who knows? Are they even playing this week, even when they're on?
I don't think they even show up. But defenses. Again, I trade defenses every week, so I just see the matchup.
Definitely, I don't think you should be afraid to do it because you could start a defense that you think is great. It's a crapshoot. You're going to end up with all kinds of craziness anyway.
All one big crapshoot, anywho.
Yes, the Ned Ryerson rule. But I think if you can start a team like Indianapolis against a team like Houston and they're at home, you go for it. That's
so let me. Start. Speaking of Houston, they're starting a rookie quarterback, Davis Mills, who yesterday had a huge game. Is he getting better, or was it Tennessee they were playing? Who were they playing yesterday?
They were playing the Patriots.
Yeah,
the Patriots. Is it just that the Patriots defense was that bad? Because Bill Belichick is notorious for crushing rookie quarterbacks.
Casey, I don't know. I mean, the Patriots almost lost. I mean, I don't know if it was a fluke, or I don't know if this kid now is like, okay, he's set in. He's not so nervous. They have a game plan now for him. They're working on his strengths, and maybe he went to Stanford. He's a smart kid, so maybe he's for real. I don't know.
There are big time quarterbacks from Stanford. You guys know who went to Stanford?
John Elway, Andrew Luck.
Luck. John Elway and Andrew Luck were the top.
Jim Plunkett, I think, went to Stanford.
Wow, good knowledge. All right,
Plunkett, guys. I think is that, did he go, or was it Cal?
I can't remember. Ross, you're the college guy. You would know. But
Aaron Rodgers went to Cal. Goff went to Cal.
Yep. Jason Kidd went to Cal. We'll just start going in other sports.
Let's do the whole Pac-12.
We'll go outside of sports even.
Yeah. So
all right, listen,
kickers.
Guys, we got to get to kickers.
We got to do it. Was a UCLA Bruin, I think.
Okay, so kickers under 60%. I'm not saying Mason Crosby, and I'm not. There's no way in heck I'm saying
he hit the game winner though
last week. Yep.
Oh yeah, after 4 tries. I mean,
3 misses and then a game winner.
Hey,
that's an interesting game.
There you go.
But okay, so my one, I'm going to stay with Indianapolis. I'm taking Blankenship. I love the glasses. I love the look. They're playing. They're playing Houston, and I feel there are going to be a lot of field goals in that game. And I think Blankenship's a good start next week.
But you now stole my line. I wanted to say, Rodrigo, you sank my Blankenship, and now I can't.
Sorry.
I did. I found a way to do it anyway. Did you see how I did? I think he's a great pickup. I also will say this is the first time I've seen a Browns kicker be reliable since like Matt Barr. Phil Dawson was good. I should give him proper credit.
Didn't his brother play too, Chris Barr?
Yes, he did for the Raiders, no less.
Yeah.
But Chase McLaughlin is looking pretty, or McLaughlin. I'm not even sure how you say his name. That's the kind of respect a kicker gets. But he's drilling everything, and
he looks
up
great.
Points.
He looks unbelievable. A lot better than McPherson for the Bengals. Oh my God, horrible.
All right, Case, who else do you have?
The only other guy I would consider, I think, let me rephrase that. I'll consider anybody. It's a kicker. I don't put a lot of faith in them, but is the best one out there for me is Brandon Mcmanus in Denver. They're going to be playing Las Vegas next week. The guy's been consistent and reliable. He missed one all year. So he's another guy who hits long field goals for him pretty consistently. So that would be the other guy I would consider.
Yeah, listen, I mean, if you're in doubt, just pick up somebody who's named Mick something. The Irish kickers, the Irish heritage kickers seem to be doing well. So, guys, I think we've set people up very well, not only for this week, but even for who to not draft next year. So thank you for that, Ross. Robbie Anderson, Michael Thomas was on there also.
Julio Jones.
Julio Jones.
Yep. And even Hunter Dozier was mentioned. He's a
that was for
punchline
you,
here.
Dan. No, that's a joke between Dan and I in Case that I mentioned Hunter Dozier's name during our baseball waiver wire a long time ago.
Yep, it led to
ever since I mentioned his
kerfuffle.
name, he batted 130 and did nothing for the rest of the season. It was unbelievable.
No one has ever made me look more right than that in a way that I knew was going to happen. So, guys, thank you so much.
Ian Happ did a nice job.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Thank you for that. Oh, you guys just made my day. Aren't you sweet? Okay, guys, this was a pleasure. We will be back next week. Now, remember,
next week.
8:45 p.m. Eastern, 5:45 Pacific next week. We're going to keep it coming.
Keep it coming. And there's a lot of bye weeks coming up. So you guys have to watch and listen and take notes and pick up players because I know you're not going to have enough players on your team to start in the next few weeks.
That's right. But don't just rely on the waiver wire show. Remember, go to our rankings, and that's going to tell you who. Listen, you get your pickups, so then you got to know who to start. So go to our rankings page. It's www.mfsn.tv. We're here for you, and we will see you next week. Thank you for watching.
Hey, Mishka, this new Killcliff grape CBD called The GOAT is the bomb.com, baby. Y'all just blew up my drink hole. Woohoo! Once you get that GOAT up in ya, ooh, that's when the magic happens. Man, that escalated quickly. Real science.